Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be taking a close look at the Life Rehab Project.
Yeah, this is a
Right.
really fascinating one.
Yeah, this is one that really, I think, has the potential to make a real impact. So, uh, as always, you're holding the proposal in your hands right now. We're going to walk you through it.
Yeah.
What are the things that stand out to us? What are the things that you should be looking for? What are some of the, maybe questions that this raises for you? But I think this one is a really, really interesting one. So why don't we just jump right into it? This project, aims to create a community to empower individuals rebuilding their life after facing some pretty big challenges, right? Things like homelessness, addiction, incarceration. And they're going about this in, I think, a really ambitious and holistic way.
Yeah, I think what's really striking about this project is that it's not just a Band-Aid solution. They're not just trying to put a roof over someone's head or give them a meal for the night. They're really looking at the big picture and trying to create a sustainable environment where people can not only get back on their feet, but actually thrive.
Mhm.
Really build a new life for themselves.
It's almost like a complete reset, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where this holistic approach comes in.
Right.
We're talking about rehabilitation, psychological support, community engagement, and a really strong emphasis on economic sustainability. And all of these pieces, from what I can tell, are really carefully interwoven.
Yeah, it's not just checking boxes.
Right.
It's about building a foundation for long-term success. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you've addressed your immediate needs, but what's next? How do you stay on that path? And this project seems to really get that.
Yeah, and they're not just dropping this community anywhere. They've obviously put a lot of thought into the location, the facilities, all of that. In the proposal, they talk about the importance of being close to resources, things like public transportation, healthcare, job opportunities. They want to be integrated into the existing infrastructure.
Yeah, it's like they're creating a launch pad,
Yes.
strategically positioned to propel these individuals toward a brighter future. And speaking of that, let's dive into the specifics of their program. What are they actually offering?
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. They have a really diverse range of services. It's like a mix and match approach to meet individual needs. So you've got vocational training in fields that are in demand, like construction, culinary arts, even tech. They're preparing people for real jobs that can actually support them.
Right, because a job is more than just a paycheck. It's dignity, it's purpose. And they've also got these life skills workshops woven, covering everything from budgeting and nutrition to communication and how to navigate the job market. Those essential skills that sometimes get overlooked, but are absolutely crucial for maintaining independence.
And it's not just about practical skills, right? There's a huge emphasis on mental health support. They have licensed professionals on site to address trauma, addiction, any other challenges that participants might be facing.
Yeah, because you can't just ignore the underlying issues that often lead to these situations. It's about healing, it's about growth, and ultimately it's about empowerment.
And I love how much emphasis they put on community building. It's not just about giving people individual support. It's about fostering a sense of belonging, encouraging residents to support and learn from each other.
Yeah, their mentorship program is a great example of that. They pair residents with professionals in their chosen fields, so they have someone to guide them, someone to open doors for them. It's about building confidence, making connections, and realizing their potential.
It's like they're creating a network within the project itself, a microcosm of the real world, but with this safety net built in. Now, obviously, all of this is going to take some serious funding. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar project here. Where's all that money coming from?
Well, the good news is they seem to have a really solid financial model. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They're not just relying on grants or donations. They've got a diversified funding strategy that includes attracting private investors, securing grants, and building partnerships with local businesses.
So spreading the risk and creating multiple revenue streams for long-term sustainability.
Exactly. That's what's going to allow this project to weather economic storms and really have a lasting impact.
Now let's talk about sustainability, because it's not just about the money, right? They've got these really impressive initiatives that go beyond just the bottom line. Like their plan to incorporate a community garden or even a farm.
Yeah, I love that idea. Providing fresh produce for residents, teaching valuable agricultural skills, and potentially even generating income by selling surplus crops to local markets.
So they're really thinking outside the box here.
And they're even exploring the possibility of resident-run businesses like a catering service or an artisan craft shop. Giving residents the opportunity to gain practical experience, earn income, and build their entrepreneurial skills.
It's like they're creating a miniature economy within the project.
Yeah.
And that ties directly into their commitment to empowering residents to become self-sufficient, contributing members of society.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So it all sounds pretty amazing on paper,
Right.
but let's be real. We all know that plans don't always translate perfectly into reality. As a
Hmm.
potential investor, you're probably thinking, what are the risks here? What could go wrong?
And you should be thinking about that because every project has its challenges. And this one is no exception. The proposal acknowledges potential risks like funding shortfalls, participant retention challenges, maybe even community resistance. And of course, there's always the unpredictable nature of the economy.
Yeah, it's like navigating a maze with potential roadblocks around every corner. But the good news is they haven't just ignored these challenges. They've actually outlined strategies to address them, to mitigate those risks.
Yeah, exactly. For example, they emphasize the importance of continuous fundraising efforts, diversifying those revenue streams so they're not reliant on any one source. And they're really focusing on building a strong sense of community within the project because they recognize that feeling connected, feeling supported is crucial for keeping residents engaged and on track.
And what about potential pushback from the community? Not everyone is going to be immediately on board with a project like this.
That's a valid concern, and they're addressing it head on. They're planning to engage with local stakeholders from the get-go, involving them in the planning process, being transparent about their goals, proactively addressing concerns. It's all about building trust and understanding.
Okay, so they've got a plan,
Mm.
but how will they know if it's working? How will they measure success? As an investor, you need to know that your money is making a difference. What are they looking at?
Well, they've got a very comprehensive evaluation process in place. They're going to be tracking key performance indicators, things like employment placements after graduation, retention rates within the program, self-reported improvements in mental health and life skills. It's about having those tangible outcomes.
So not just good intentions, but actual measurable results.
Exactly. And they're also committed to gathering qualitative feedback through surveys, interviews, really getting a sense of the human impact of this project, because it's not just about numbers.
It's about stories.
It's about lives changed. And that's what's going to be so powerful about this project.
So we've covered the vision, the programs, the funding, the risks, the evaluation process. It's a lot to take in. But now let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. What's the ultimate goal of the Life Rehab Project? Where do they see this going?
They're not just trying to help a few hundred people. They're aiming to create a model that can be replicated, that can be scaled up to address these issues on a much larger scale. They want to influence policy, advocate for changes that support rehabilitation and reintegration efforts across the country.
So they're thinking big.
They're thinking big. They see this project as a catalyst for change.
It's a bold vision.
It is. But if they succeed, the impact could be huge. Think about the lives transformed, the communities revitalized, and ultimately the way we as a society approach these issues.
Now let's bring it back to you, our listener. You're holding this proposal in your hands. You've heard us talk about the potential, the challenges, the vision. What are your thoughts? What resonates with you?
What excites you about this project? What questions do you still have? What do you need to know to make an informed decision?
All right, so we're back, and we just laid out a lot of the nuts and bolts of this project in part one. But one of the things that really stood out to me when I was reading through the proposal was their emphasis on becoming a true part of the community.
Yeah, it's not just about setting up shop and offering services. It's about weaving themselves into the existing fabric of the community.
Exactly. And they're doing that in a lot of different ways. They're talking about forging partnerships with local organizations, schools, businesses. It's about tapping into the resources that are already there and creating these mutually beneficial relationships.
Yeah, I mean, those collaborations are going to be crucial for everything from job placements and internships for participants to securing resources and donations for the project itself. It's a win-win for everyone involved.
Right. And they're not just relying on those formal partnerships. They're also encouraging community members to get directly involved through volunteer programs. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Imagine local residents coming in and sharing their skills, their experiences with the project participants. I mean, that's just invaluable.
It is, and it benefits both sides, right? The volunteers gain a deeper understanding of the challenges that these folks are facing. It breaks down stereotypes and it fosters empathy.
And of course, they're going to be launching awareness campaigns to inform the wider community about the project and its goals.
Yeah.
Really getting the word out there.
Yeah, because it's about changing perceptions,
Yeah.
right? Reducing that stigma that's often associated with homelessness, addiction, incarceration. It's about highlighting the potential for rehabilitation, for reintegration.
It's about showing people that this isn't a handout, it's an investment in the community's future.
Exactly.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just talking about the warm and fuzzy kind. I mean, how are they going to make sure that this project can survive, can thrive long term?
Right. The money's got to come from somewhere. And thankfully, they've got a really smart approach to this. They're not just relying on external funding, they're building multiple revenue streams into the project itself.
It's like they're thinking like entrepreneurs.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about this. They're looking at things like setting up small businesses that can actually employ residents and generate income.
Yeah, like a cafe or a retail store or maybe even an artisan craft shop. It's a way to provide practical job training while also contributing to the project's financial independence.
Right. It gives residents a sense of ownership, a sense of pride.
Mm.
They're not just employees, they're entrepreneurs. They're contributing to the success of this community.
And then there's the community farm idea. I mean,
Yeah.
that just has so much potential.
It does. It provides fresh produce for residents. They can sell the surplus to local markets or restaurants. It's a great way to generate income while also promoting sustainable practices.
And they're actively going after grants, building relationships with businesses for sponsorships and donations. They're really leaving no stone unturned.
Yeah, they're covering all their bases. And their vision for sustainability goes beyond just the financial piece, too. They're talking about building an alumni network. Former participants coming back, to mentor others, to share their experiences.
It's creating this incredible ripple effect. Success breeding more success.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Now, of course, any responsible project needs a solid plan for evaluation, for reporting.
Right.
How are they going to know if they're actually making a difference?
Well, they've laid out a very thorough approach. They're going to be tracking key performance indicators, those KPIs. Think of it like a dashboard, giving them real-time data on their progress.
Yeah, so things like employment rates after graduation, retention rates within the program, self-reported improvements in mental health and life skills. It's about demonstrating tangible outcomes, holding themselves accountable.
And they're committed to transparency. They're going to be providing regular reports to stakeholders, outlining their progress, the challenges they're facing, areas for improvement.
And they're not afraid to adjust course if necessary. They're planning annual impact assessments to see what's working, what's not, and make any necessary tweaks along the way.
They're constantly evaluating, they're constantly evolving.
Which is really important for any project that wants to have a lasting impact. And they're not doing this in a vacuum either. They're emphasizing stakeholder engagement throughout the entire process.
Right. They're talking about having quarterly community meetings to share updates, to gather feedback, to make sure that everyone feels heard.
It's about creating that sense of shared ownership.
And it's also about staying responsive to the needs of the community.
Okay, so we've talked about community engagement, we've talked about sustainability, we've talked about evaluation. Now let's step back and look at the big picture again. Where do they see this project going in the long run?
They're not content with just addressing the immediate needs of a few hundred individuals. They want to create a model that can be replicated, that can be scaled up to have a national impact.
Yeah, they're talking about influencing policy,
Mm-hmm.
advocating for changes that support rehabilitation and reintegration efforts across the country.
They're not just building a project, they're building a movement.
It's a bold vision.
It is, but it's one that has the potential to really change things.
And that brings us back to you, our listener.
Yeah, as you're reading through this proposal, as you're considering your role in this project,
I just want you to think about their long-term vision.
do you share their belief in a better future?
Do you see yourself as part of this movement?
Because that's what this is about. It's a collective effort to create a more just and compassionate society.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've spent the last two parts really digging into the Life Rehab Project. We've looked at their vision, their plans, their commitment to sustainability and community engagement. But now in this final part, I want to shift the focus to you, our listener.
We've thrown a lot of information your way, but at the end of the day, the most important question is what resonates with you.
Yeah, what are you taking away from this? What parts of this project spark your interest, your passion, maybe even challenge some of your assumptions?
Because this is where it gets real. You're holding that proposal in your hands, and you have to decide what role you want to play in this.
Right. Are you seeing the potential here, the potential to invest in something that goes way beyond just financial returns?
This is about social impact. This is about transformed lives, revitalized communities. It's about creating a more just and equitable society.
And maybe for some of you, it's not about the investment side. Maybe it's about the collaborative aspect.
Right. Do you have a particular skill set and network of contacts, access to resources that could be valuable to this project?
It could be as simple as offering your time as a mentor, or maybe you've got expertise in a certain area and you can lead a workshop,
Hmm.
or even just spreading the word about this initiative. Every little bit helps.
Because this project thrives on the energy and dedication of people who believe in second chances, people who want to make a difference.
And for some of you listening, maybe this hits even closer to home. Maybe you've personally experienced some of the struggles that this project addresses,
Yeah.
homelessness, addiction, the challenge of rebuilding your life after incarceration.
If that's you, your lived experience is invaluable. Your insights, your perspectives, your stories can help shape this project and make sure that it truly meets the needs of the people it serves.
Because remember, this isn't about charity. This is about empowerment. It's about giving people the tools they need to reclaim their lives, to contribute their talents, to become valued members of the community.
It's about hope. It's about belonging. It's
Yeah.
about creating a space where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question.
Could this model be adapted to address other social challenges in your community? What unique skills or resources could you bring to the table? What kind of positive change could you help ignite?
We encourage you to really sit with those questions
Yeah.
because the Life Rehab Project is a powerful example of what can happen when we combine vision, dedication, and a belief in the human potential for transformation.
It's a call to action for all of us to step up and make a difference, no matter how big or small.
Change starts with a single step. So what will yours be? That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us.